community radio programming is brought to you in part by R. Levesque Associates. They are offering landscape architecture, civil engineering, environmental permitting, and land surveying. RLA is a second-generation company devoted to excellence in the planning and design of outdoor spaces. On the web at rlaland.com or at 40 School Street in Westfield.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show.
Right here on WSKB 89.5.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Chamber Chatter. My name is Eric Willett. I am the Executive Director here for the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce. So again, welcome to everybody that is watching and or listening. This morning, I have the distinct honor and privilege of having our very own school superintendent for the Westfield schools, Mr. Stefan Zeporowski. So good morning, Stefan.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
That's a big build-up there, boss.
It really was. But you know what? It's good to be here today, too, because we don't have a show this week because Veterans Day. So I feel like I'm getting my my fill of the radio, TV this week. So.
Well, I just read off the notes that you gave me of what I had to read when I introduced you.
Yeah, very.
Ooh. All right, I'll shut off my lights and make the control room quiet in here.
Well, and good morning to you, Peter. How are you doing?
He really did turn it off.
Yeah.
I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
Hey, another week I'm alive. Wonderful day. That's a wonderful thing, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Who's the student with you, Pete?
Curtis is back here lurking.
Nice. Is he?
He appears over my shoulder. I see his. He doesn't say anything. He just he's standing there, and I could see him in the reflection in the window.
Is he watching?
Yes.
Learning? I hope?
Oh, he can do his own stuff. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But he'll do it at like 7 o'clock in the morning as soon as he gets into school.
Oh.
It's a little unnerving to feel somebody over your shoulder.
Well, at least he likes what he's doing, so that's good.
Yeah, he's gotten really good at operating the VMix. So he does a couple of student shows, including Al's Hot Takes, and he also does what do they call it? The Daily Chatter is what they call it.
Oh,
nice.
Daily Chatter.
Yeah, 2 student shows that they're working on.
Nice.
Great. That's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, we'll roll into the show here. So again, thanks for coming on this morning. So, I believe the last time I was on your show, we talked a little bit about the WeTuba group and what we're doing, and a lot has progressed on that, but we'll get into that a little more later. So I guess let's open up. The big question that I've been asked through different networking events, and even brought up to the mayor. We had our mayor's coffee last Monday.
Right.
Was with Mayor Humison at the high school, which was great to have there at the library. They were gracious hosts. Everybody had a good time. The students were there. It sounds like they want to build a culinary program at the high school.
We're trying.
So, and I think everybody was happy with the spread that we had. So that's great. So we're actually here next month at the Tech Academy. So they've got a lot to work up to. So to show up to high school. But we'll talk about that later. So
have you had lunch here yet?
I have, but it's been a while. It's been a couple years actually. So the Rotary Club used to do lunch here.
I remember.
And have lunch here once a quarter or once maybe twice a year or whatever. And the food's always great here. So
well, they have the buffet November 18th, Pete. Are you aware of that, Pete? Oh. They have their annual Thanksgiving buffet is coming back, which is
yes, I've heard. I think Rick wants in on that, and so does Kenny.
Yeah, I can imagine. Their Thanksgiving buffet is terrific, but I would call and make reservations.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it's usually a packed house. They even put seating on the stage to keep people distant
Oh, wow.
from each other.
Great.
So
Great.
it's a pretty good deal.
Great.
Yeah, the coffee hour will be here December 1st, so I think they'll do all right too. But it's an interesting thing. One of the things we wanted to build on at the high school is culinary hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually were working toward that. Not that you asked this, but
No,
I'm just
that's
gonna, we were starting to move in that direction before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And really with so much, the pandemic just really put a halt to that. But we're getting back into that. We're also looking to start a criminal justice program at Westfield High School. And those are the two shops or CTE programs we'd like to add there for now. And hopefully we get there someday.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Yeah, a lot of working's going on within the high school here at the Tech Academy, so we're always evolving, which is good. And I
Yes.
think it's a testament to you and all the teachers and the school system here that there's a lot to think outside the box, and I think Westfield School Department and school system itself does
Thank you.
does a lot to do that.
You know,
so.
and that's a great point because education has changed.
Yeah.
And at least for most of us. And so we have to evolve with those times, you know. And I think we're starting to see, you know, we're emphasizing college and career, which is kind of what led to our relationship with the Chamber a few years ago. And we can talk more about that in a little bit too. But, you know, I think we have to present multiple opportunities for our students. And
Right.
I don't know that college is the answer for everybody anymore, as though, you know, when I was a student, that's what they kind of were pushing. But you see that the trades exam, as we're sitting at a technical high school
Right.
here, there's a huge demand for these employees, and they very good paying jobs.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you don't walk out with 4 years of school loans. That is like a mortgage,
Right,
you know.
right.
So,
Right.
so I think it's important, and clearly we still want students to go to college too. But I think there are other options out there. And what I love to see, when I was principal here, one of the best things I love to see is students would get hired, and then the employer would pay for their or at least a portion of their continuing education,
awesome.
because that's a great setup.
Absolutely.
The cost of college stays outrageous.
Right. And I don't know how many times, but mainly before the pandemic, where kids are going to college and a lot of professors are saying, yep, you're going to get your 4-year degree. You're going to get a great job, 9 to 5, no weekends, no nights. And kids are like, oh, great. I'm ready to go out into the real world. I'm going to go and use this $100,000 piece of paper that I earned at college. And it's not the case, And
Can I laugh now?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, just in my my previous career with the Boy Scouts,
Yeah.
I don't know how much turnover you get on in the nonprofit world, because again, kids 22 to 24-year-olds,
People younger than us.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
are expected to come out and have these high-paying jobs, and that's just not the case. They've got to work nights, they got to work weekends, and they get burnt out so quickly because they're not accustomed to that type of environment.
Right.
Graduating from college and getting set up for this, but the reality and expectation is here. So
You
I
have
think,
better luck getting a high-paying job as a machinist than you do as an English lit major.
yeah, you're right. You're absolutely
Unless
right.
you want to teach, right, Bob?
Unless you want to teach,
Yeah.
because there's
I know.
openings everywhere for
Right,
teachers
right.
now
And-
too.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's true. Just everyone's kind of had to hit the reset button with COVID, and the workforce has a huge strain on it right now, and there's
Really
demand
does.
for everything. So,
And people reach out to us for students. It's
Right.
interesting. And we just had, Martha Rickson, I know that Polish National Credit Union is a member of the
Yep,
Chamber, and we love our partnership with them, and
Yep.
they've been terrific. They just hired a student from here for co-op that Martha had put together out of our business tech shop, and it's terrific. I mean, just the opportunities for our students, to me, too, especially here, but even at the high school, I think that the opportunity for young people to get out into the workforce, I think gives you an idea, so that when you get those false promises from your college professor,
Right.
you actually know what to expect. And
Right.
so, a few years ago, we brought in Mass Hire to run the Career Center at Westfield High School. And the reason being is that we knew that they had access certainly to certainly training programs like Signal Success for our students, but also to more employers to get students out. So, if you think, we used to have work study where any job you could go and, your senior year and go out, leave at lunch and go to work. But now we're trying to match that with your career interests. So if you think you want to be a veterinarian, then we'll try to set you up at Westfield Animal or hospital or something like that, so you can actually check those careers out.
Right.
And I think it's a good opportunity for our students. And I still believe, and always will, you get such an education on the job. that's not something you can replicate in school.
Absolutely.
Even though here they do a great job with that, but it's still once you hit the workforce. And Pete made a reference to machinists. Good. There's another good paying job, and all of the manufacturing businesses around here need help.
Absolutely.
So, you try to match student interest with that. I know our manufacturing program here, our students are fortunate enough, really 100% job placement if they want it. 100%.
Right. And it's funny that our legislative luncheon last month took a hard right turn, where usually at the legislative luncheon it's our constituents asking the legislation questions, and it immediately turned to the constituents talking to each other. Polish nationals talking to Mishi about getting, how do we get people into the credit union, and then Don Creighton talking about HR and potential backups there, and I mean it just became this huge group discussion, and they kind of just sat back like this, we don't have to talk today. This is great. We're not going to get picked on.
Yeah, they didn't get grilled too much, not at all.
But it was great dialogue to see, that, and it was eye opening, I think, for a lot of people in that room, that there is a demand for the workforce, and people can't even get bank tellers to come in and work either part-time or even full-time. And I think a lot of people were expecting, once the federal the federal funding there, the extra monies that people were getting ran out, that people are going to start coming back to work, and it's just not the case. So a lot of people
We are experiencing that.
Yeah,
in schools.
at the schools, right?
We have openings all the time, and some of our positions are pretty critical. It's really, the pandemic has hit, I think, almost I can't really every sector.
Sure.
For industry in terms of employees.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get better, but hopefully it doesn't get worse before it gets better. But it
has to get better.
Right. as it starts to evolve, we come more and more out of the pandemic here, and funding starts to deplete here, and the free monies aren't there. Hopefully that's going to start turning a corner, because a lot of these businesses are offering signing bonuses and incentives, and you work for a month, we'll give you an extra $1,000 here, and
I'm seeing banks paying $25 an hour for tellers.
Yeah.
I mean, 19 or 16 an hour at Dunkin'. It's incredible the way that wages have going up because of the demand.
Right.
And you're right, signing bonuses, everything.
And it's majority of it's from the bottom, I think, too. All the entry level employees, the mid level employees that folks are trying to.
But there's something to be said for, and you were talking about the generation now. You still have to, so we have to do your time. You still have to, there is that piece. Working your way up is still actually, I think there's a lot of benefit to that, because you're seeing different aspects of every level of business and industry that you're in, and you don't want to lose sight of that. I think. If I had never taught, I don't think that really being a superintendent would make sense.
Sure.
I think you need to do that, and being a building-based administrator helps you become that role.
Right.
You can't just go from college to superintendent.
Correct.
There's and that's true for most every job.
Yeah.
But not everyone is willing to do that.
Yeah. And it's I hate to say it's the what's in it for me mentality. But you're right. People need to experience the workforce in the position that they're working in, and it's got to be more than just 6 months to a year, because jobs are evolving so much now.
Right.
And again, kids graduating from high schools, going into college, and coming out, they're not used to that type of workforce and that type of work. So being able to experience almost at the entry level position. And again, a lot of companies, I think the pandemic was an eye-opener for a lot of companies, where they said, oh, right, we're not paying enough for our entry-level employees. What can we do to incentivize more people to come and work? And, I know I've talked about this on your show, and then with Harry Rock earlier in the spring, but we did a job fair with Mestech, because Mestech had, back in May, they had 90 positions, I believe, they had to fill. They just bought their competitor, the number 2 competitor.
Right.
I'm sorry, their number 1 competitor, the second largest in the country there, and they needed 90 employees, 30 immediately. So they said, can we do a job fair? And we said, sure. So they were able to fill, I think, a third of those jobs. And again, that was back in April. Hopefully, they've been able to, fill more of those. But it's.
Well, they have a sign outside.
Yeah,
They're
all
still
the time.
hiring.
Yeah.
I mean, almost every place you go.
Correct. So, but just to come full circle here, just I think a lot of people have been asking especially at the Mayor's Coffee, and then again just at some of the networking events that we've had is not a lot of people either just don't read the news or just it just I guess kind of want to know what's going on with the school project that everybody's reading about here or not reading about
depending
here.
on how you look at it.
Right. So if you give us maybe an update or just what's going on there.
So October 27th, we had a meeting with the MSBA, and they approved our project moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So. And so this is the part where, this is my first time going through this process of building a school. So there's been an education of sorts, right?
Sure.
And it's a good one. And of course, we always appreciate the MSBA, and they'll tell you, that we're the only state in the country that has an organization like this that helps fund the school buildings.
Right.
The catch is that when, so you hear, we had actually worked up to about 77% reimbursement, which sounds absolutely fantastic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But there is a little bit misleading there. So, first of all, the cost of construction has gone up
exponentially
because of the pandemic or not, who knows, but certainly those businesses are also having employee shortages, and so trying to get companies to come in and do this work is a lot. But the MSBA thinks that, or at least I don't know if they think that, but this is their reimbursement rate. It's like $360 a square foot for what you build.
Right.
But you can't build a building for less than 500, and I think we're about 540, 550 per square foot. So they're reimbursing 77 point something percent of the 360, not of what the actual cost is. So that's where the difference comes in. And so the total project is $62 million to build an elementary school, and that's gone up since the last project that was planned and then I would say abandoned in the end because and it should have been. Was not going to cost anywhere near that. So we know that from that, and that was like 2008, 2009. And so now we're in 2021, 2022, and the costs have gone up exponentially.
Right.
So we had a public meeting. About 50 people showed up to ask questions. We showed the design of the school. That PowerPoint that we had is actually on our website. If you just click on MSBA Elementary School Project, and you can see the designs, and there's possible images of what the interior and exterior might look like. And we say possible because our next phase now, so MSBA has guaranteed their funding part. Now we go to the city, and there's got to be a bond for about $30 million. So the actual reimbursement rate comes down to a little over 50%, and that's the reality. That it doesn't sound as good as a 77, but that's our reality now. So we had a meeting with. I attended a city council meeting last Thursday, and the request was referred to long range finance, and so we have another meeting November 17th. To talk about the school, and we also realize, in the part of the school department here, but we realize that there are other capital needs in the city as well. And so I think that a plan is needed and is being worked on to see what projects need to be done and how they're going to be funded over the next decade.
Sure,
so,
and not just with sorry, not to cut you off, not just with the new elementary school, but I'm sure the high school, the tech academy, Southampton Elementary,
the police station.
Right. But I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm talking more within the schools. I'm sure need help as well, other than a police station and everything else that's needed in the city. So
right, and there's a lot that's needed, and we've been needing a new elementary school really for quite some time.
Right.
So here we're looking to replace Franklin Avenue and Abner Gibbs. So two old schools, although Abner is far older, and really both schools have had recent heating issues, and so we are plugging along and keeping it together for now in the anticipation of a new building. But if not, we'd have to do some significant work to each of those two buildings. And we did an estimate for a refurb and rebuild at Franklin Ave, and it actually was going to cost more than a new building.
Wow.
So that's why we didn't pick that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
We also looked at different designs for the new school in terms of whether it was going to be 1-story, 2-story, or 3. We went with a 2-story because a 1-story, the school was going to be sprawled out and take up a lot of the greenery, right? And we wanted to put fields there and stuff for the community. So we went with a 2-story building, and it kind of fits in the neighborhood. But Franklin, is if you've been in there, it needs help.
Sure.
And so does, and it's not that it hasn't been. I mean, it was built in 1953, and it's almost 70 years old.
about.
Abner Gibbs was built in 1914.
Right.
So there's no elevator at Abner. If a student is handicapped, they can't go to their neighborhood elementary school because they can't. There's no.
Right. There's no accessibility.
Right. Abner also eventually will need a new roof, which is not a cheap thing either. So to try to keep these schools up is not. Plus, you're limiting access to employees as well, which in today's day and age, at Abner, in today's day and age, it's not how we're supposed to be operating.
Right.
So, in terms of neither building has air conditioning. Not that you have to have that, but if you're sitting in a classroom in June, Abner Gibbs is probably the hottest school in the district.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter how many windows you open.
Right.
And the heat's not. I figure we can save. This is what we've about at least $500,000 a year by closing 2 to open 1.
Right.
And plus, now that's not even counting really all the energy efficiency that's available now. I mean, there's the Abner Gibbs boiler is the original boiler. It works great, but if you go down there, you can actually still see and open up where they used to shovel coal in.
Oh wow!
So it's pretty. It's pretty
Pretty
old.
Yeah.
I mean, even I hate to use this as an example, but even the urinals are on the floor.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like a modern bathroom by any means. In fact, I'm always impressed, or not, I'm being sarcastic, with the saloon doors that you have to walk in through.
Right, and it's funny. I don't think a lot of people realize that, because that was one of the questions that was brought up again at the mayor's coffee last week, like what's going on with the project, and someone had mentioned, was there really a need for a new elementary school with everything else that the city needs and that's going on, and a lot of people eyebrows raised, and some people like, oh yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense, and that was the first thing that the mayor said was, well, one of our schools is 107 years old with the original boiler, and he said the same thing and said it's got its original boiler, and they've still got the shovels down there that they used back in 1914 to shovel coal into the boiler. So,
and its twin was retired 18 years ago, almost 20 years ago.
Is that Mosley?
Mosley. Its twin was retired that long ago.
So and it's time to take a look at our our structures, especially within the school systems. I mean, I don't know how many schools are struggling around the country with what can they do to rebuild and whatnot. And just in my home city back in East Providence in Rhode Island, they just built a brand new high school. This is the kids that are in school for the first time, and it's not cheap at all.
No.
So and having to knock down the building, they've taken care of all that. So I guess do we have a plan, or we as I know it's me. Is there a plan moving forward, I guess, with those 2 elementary schools after the new one's built? Is there still going to be will the school department still be in there in some capacity, or is that
in the Abner Gibbs building?
Abner Gibbs and
well, Franklin will be torn down.
Okay.
So the new Franklin is actually going to be built. So those 2 properties, and I will give props to Mayor Humison for going to knock on these people's doors, to see about purchasing the property. So we purchased 2 homes which abut Franklin Street. So that whole area is where the new school will be built. So school will be happening at Franklin Avenue while the new school is going on.
Okay.
And then when they move into the new school, they'll be tearing down the old school and building fields and such. So our vision for this, it's downtown. So our vision for this is not just to be a school for kids, but also to be a community resource in the evenings for different presentations, athletics. So, we want it to be a community building.
Sure.
And I think that, I like that idea. Right now, both schools aren't really used for that.
Right.
And it's because I think, first of all, the capacity. I mean, they both have cafegimatoriums.
Right.
So they have cafeteria. It also functions as the gym and the auditorium at both schools, which is challenging.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Challenging to say the least. Especially with setup. I mean, if you're trying to do an event after lunch, you've got to move everything out. It's just not the way schools are built anymore.
Sure.
And we're excited for that. So I would say, I think we do need a new school, and the students in the downtown area deserve a school that's not 107 or 70 years old, that's not beat up. And, you look at our other schools, Paper Mill and Munger Hill, very well maintained, built in 1991. And they're still, but when they built schools in the 90s, it's a little bit different than when they built. Although I will have to tell you, I think Abner Gibbs is a beautiful building from a historical perspective, and I'm a former history teacher, and what the custodians are able to do with those original hardwood floors is just very impressive. I mean, I think we've done as much as we can considering.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely.
But you asked about the high school, unless you want to take a break.
Yeah, I was just taking a look. Why don't we? No, it's okay. We have another half hour here, so why don't we take a break? Again, I'm here with Stefan Zeporowski, our superintendent from the Westfield Schools. So we'll take a break here on 89.5 FM and WCPC Channel 15. We'll be right back.
It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Join us every Thursday morning.
From 6 until at least 7:30,
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show.
right here on WSKB 89.5.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. For those who are just tuning in, my name is Eric Willett. I am the Executive Director for the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce. And this morning, I have the distinct honor and privilege, because that's what it says in my notes, of having our...
I did not put that there.
of having our superintendent here of our Westfield Schools, Stefan Zeporowski. So good morning, Stefan. Thank you for joining me here. I think we've had some great conversation, over the past half hour about what's going on with the schools. So just to, I think, kind of wrap up what we were chatting about a little bit is what's going on with the facilities at Franklin and Abner Gibbs. So I know we touched on Franklin. We're rebuilding there and, hoping to expand the community's access to the buildings and making it more of a resource. But with Abner Gibbs, I guess, what's gonna happen over at
So we do
Abner
have
Gibbs?
some folks interested in acquiring the property.
Okay.
So I'm not at liberty.
Nope,
to
that's
say
fine.
who,
That's fine.
But there is interest.
Yep.
So that's a really good thing. And I just wanted to finish up about the high school because that is the next project that people are asking for.
Sure.
And I understand. And as someone who's the principal here, I mean, we are now sitting in a building that was built in 1962.
Okay.
And then the upper campus building was built in 1931.
Oh, wow.
And it's been, refurbed a few times, all right, but it's still old if you go up there. It's old.
Yeah.
And so is down here. We spoke of the urinals at the, not that I want to be talking about urinals all day, but the same thing down here.
Sure.
By carpentry. So, and the thing is we've done as much as we can to make this... We've done as much as we can to keep this building up to date, and the same with the high school. High school projects. We've paved the driveway. We have replaced several exterior doors. This is just in the last few years. We replaced the carpeting and the sound system in the auditorium with help from JPEG Luke on the sound system. And so we've painted some of the first floor hallways. We repaired all the electrical outlets and the water in the science classrooms so that those were working. And very soon we're putting in a new phone and intercom system. So, and that's really a lot more money than people think.
Absolutely.
So we are trying to keep the buildings up as much as we can.
Sure.
But the fact of the matter is that we do need my vision is for one new high school, which would combine the students here and at Westfield High School. So we have projections from our MSBA project for the elementary school that by 2027, our total high school population will be about 1,500. Now, when I first started in the district in 2008, the Westfield High School's population was 1,600 by itself, and there were 450 here.
Wow.
Now there's about 550 here and about 1,100 at the high school.
Sure.
So we're starting to see that come to fruition. I also don't think that we would get support for 2 new high schools from the MSBA. I don't. So then it would be fully on the taxpayer in Westfield. So I think one new high school. The other thing why I think that works is because what we are doing now is essentially dividing our resources by operating 2 schools. So similar to when you combine the schools, if we combine both high schools, not only would it be a financially smart move, but we also be providing more opportunities for students because to me there are students at the high school that want to go into engineering, right? And there's an engineering pathway at the high school, but wouldn't it be great if they could play with the CAD CAM equipment that is here and do some engineering and that kind of thing? And I think also students here don't have access to AP classes, for example, but if we had one school, they could.
Right.
So
right.
I think it provides more opportunity. And again, when I say college and career, now students would have access to do all of that. And, once, I feel like your senior year, you should be able to explore all of that stuff so that you can make an educated decision whether you want to go into the workforce, you want to go into college, or you want to do both simultaneously.
Sure.
So that's a long range plan, and I really hope to see that happen. But you mentioned a new high school where you grew up, and the elementary school is $62 million. A new high school comes in a price tag of over $300.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But again, long range, how much money are we saving by having a new high school? And instead of constantly repairing and upgrading the existing schools, with new roofs and everything else. So,
we did, and I want to thank you for bringing that up because we put a new roof over the gym and the locker room area a couple years ago at the high school too. So there's work happening to keep the schools, as up to date as we possibly can. But there's limitations. So the high school was built in 1973, and I don't want to think that that's old because that's the same year that I was born. So it's not old. It's young, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
But it's just things get older, and we have to meet the 21st educational expectations.
Yes, absolutely. And you touched a little bit on the police department. That's how old the police department building is there, and having back in the, I believe it was the 60s or 70s when it was built, having the flat roof, that was a style back then, and now it's causing problems for everybody, for every
Who thought of that?
I do not know, but somebody probably woke up one day and said, you know what, I'm going to make a ton of money making flat roofs on all these buildings.
In New England.
In New England.
In New England, right?
I could see in Florida or the Carolinas or
Right.
something, but in New England.
Right.
Well, the snow, it melts and water finds its way through any way that it can, and we've experienced that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's just a lot of upgrades that need to happen around the city. I think that's going to happen over the next, I'd say, 10 years, 8 to 10 years here, which is good. Our new mayor-elect, Mike McCabe, I believe, will continue the vision of improving our infrastructure here, as Mayor Humison tried to do in his predecessors. So,
I think the federal government is passing additional monies
correct.
come
Yeah,
to
ARPA funds.
to address infrastructure needs. So that's very encouraging.
Yeah.
And I like that there's a capital plan being developed for the city of Westfield. There's work being done toward that. So all good things happening.
Yeah, and it's we're very lucky to be able to say that we're moving forward. A lot of cities are not in the same situation.
Exactly.
So moving on. So we started a online school last year, correct?
Yeah. So actually, this is the first year. September.
I'm sorry.
Just started.
Okay. So I guess touch a little bit on that. I mean, it's kind of new and it's dynamic. It's got its own principal. It's got I believe its own teachers there.
It does.
I've not seen that at the elementary and high school level before. If there is, I guess I'm oblivious. But you only really see that in colleges though, where you can go online and take classes and have dialogues and everything else. So I guess how's that program going?
So it's going pretty well. It's K-8 right now.
Okay.
And we have 110 students. It's been steady pretty much since the beginning. But what we're doing with this school is, so I think, we're taking what we learned from the pandemic and trying to apply it to meet the needs of our kids. So what we know is there are some families that have immunocompromised folks either living in the home. One thing that Westfield has a lot of too is grandparents raising their grandkids. And I don't know that people, we do fundraisers for that group and so on. And so coming to school, COVID is still around. It hasn't gone away, fortunately. Right. And so we also have students that have that are immunocompromised. So that's the first niche that we really wanted to capture. And then we also realized that there were kids during the pandemic that absolutely excelled during online learning.
Sure.
The vast majority did not, all right? Yeah. But there's a group that did. So there are 2 Commonwealth virtual schools. There's one in Greenfield, and then there's one in Tech Ed, I think, that's out in Cambridge.
Okay.
So anybody can attend those schools across the state.
Mm-hmm.
But there are only 7 individual districts, and you can only run it within your district. Now, we hope that changes.
Sure.
Because we've had local communities, parents calling us to see if they could send their students to our virtual school, and the state is not allowing that, but we hope they reconsider that decision.
Sure.
But it's pretty steady. And next year we want to grow into grade 9. Again, one of the 7, and I think we're Springfield is larger and Pittsfield is larger than us, so we're in terms of numbers. But
Right.
again, we're meeting the needs of these students. Now, I've gone a couple times to visit the school during while the teachers are teaching, because right now it's currently located at the church next to the old town hall across from the green.
Okay.
And so the teachers are in a classroom, and they have staff meetings. They work together. They collaborate, and I think that's a very positive thing. But when we went in there, it just seemed like all the kids and the teachers were engaged, and they didn't want to talk to me, which is great. Talk to the kids. That's what I wanted to be doing.
Absolutely.
So I think we're meeting the needs of that group of kids, and I think it's a terrific, opportunity for some of those students that do better in that environment. And if I want to meet the needs of our kids, so if that's a need, we're trying this out. We're piloting it for 3 years and see what happens. Now, if the enrollment declines significantly, then we would have to disband it.
Sure.
But if the enrollment continues to grow, then here we have our 12th school to stay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, are seeing that, as you said, virtual learning is becoming more and more popular, and I think it's good for kids to be able to still, attend school, whether it's in person or virtual, especially if there's immune compromised folks
Absolutely.
at home, and as we again continue to come out of this mess over the past 2 years here almost, it's I think a couple bright spots. I hate to say it in a pandemic, but again, just being able to think outside the box and how we can provide educational programs to our kids, not just the kids, our adults, excuse me, and how we've been able to adapt within the walls of our school community.
Well,
here.
and what I think is good is that, so the other alternative for these 110 would be to attend either that Greenfield Virtual School or TECA Academy. But those aren't in Westfield. Those aren't really with Westfield students.
Right.
So now they're participating in their community schools still.
Sure.
So they can still participate in Westfield events, and they can still have friends, and that are from Westfield, and interact with them. So I think, you still could the other way too, but this is a little more meaningful in that you're still a member of your community, and you can still participate in Westfield stuff.
Right.
Through the school. So I just think it's a good program. Like I said, if enrollment declines, we'll do what we have to do. But I guess if I'm not going to, bet the house on it, but I would say that I think it's probably going to grow.
Yeah, and that's great. And we've done a lot with with the school department. The chamber has, anyways, over the past few years. Excuse me. And my predecessor, I know, started a program called WeTuba, Westfield Education to Business.
So we actually started that together, Kate and I.
Yep.
We went to,
Right.
I remember our first meeting was at the Holiday Inn by the Turnpike, which is no longer a Holiday Inn.
No, it's a Hampton Inn now, I
Hampton
believe.
Inn,
Yep.
okay. And we had 16 people, and I give Andrea Allard the credit for naming us because she picked our name. And Andrea, by the way, is the CEO at the YMCA.
Correct. Yep.
For anyone who doesn't know that. And I remember John, at the time, State Rep John Velas and Mayor Brian Sullivan came and gave us their blessing and kickoff. And from then, we've just been growing and stronger. And again, we did get the pandemic affected everything.
Right.
So it also affected that. But I think one of the things that's been great about our Westfield Education to Business Alliance is just the partnership between the chamber and the schools and businesses in our community. And I think some things we can consider successes are the Adopt a Classroom program for sure, where businesses come in and work with classrooms over one day or a series of days. Or, I mentioned Martha Rickson earlier. I remember she came in and was teaching some of our financial literacy classes from a different perspective than a teacher because she's in the field. Right. And so I think it gives our students a better perspective. We've also seen an increase in job shadows, internships, and cooperative education placements because of this group. There are mentors that are attached to the program, so people from the business community can give up an hour a week and mentor one or two students at a grade level. If they do, they go through. We've developed a training that people can go through, and it's just been pretty exciting. And now you're on board. You and I have already started to try to pick up the pieces again
Right.
after the pandemic
Correct.
and bring it back to relevancy, which brings me to the career fair that we are planning for April 7th, right?
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be an opportunity for again some of these businesses who've been struggling. Granted, it's only November, but to plan.
Right.
To plan this, it's we want to make sure it's successful. So, but having businesses being able to come out and set up a table, whether they've got internships or they're hiring, and the kids from both high schools are going to be able to come out and take a look at what the city of Westfield has to offer, and maybe the surrounding areas. But I think it's going to be I think it'll be well attended. I think we're going to have a good group of businesses that are going to show up, and
I hope so. So our first year, we did 2 years. We had 40 the first year, 50 the next year. Our goal was 75, and then bam, the pandemic came. So we stopped. So I'd like to hope we get 75 businesses. But what's interesting is, in the past few years, there are students, and Westfield State University is hosting the event.
Right.
And there's another chamber member and another chamber member that we have a good, very strong relationship with, many different aspects. So I think if we can get 50 businesses, I think I'd be pretty excited.
Yeah, and I know the new president of Westfield State wants more people to essentially move back and be part of Westfield, and I know that's been the...
Well, that's what we want, too.
Right,
when we
right.
started this, we said, when we started the career fair, our thing was, yes, go to college and go away and enjoy that, but just remember what Westfield has to offer. We want you to come back, move here, live here, play here.
Yeah.
Because it's a great community.
Yeah,
it's an absolutely great
And
community.
we're developing more and more local businesses that are moving into the city. Finding it that being a gateway city, and we're a great gateway city. I think opening up different avenues for different businesses that have been coming in. A lot of boutique shops. We've got a lot of Chrissy G's Bakery just opened up. So we've got a lot of new businesses that are opening up downtown. And obviously the mayor likes to joke with the cutting with the big scissors there, and not to run with scissors and everything else. But we've been
hugest pair of scissors I've ever seen. Yeah.
We get to go out and meet these new business owners and see the passion that they've got for not only their business but for the city, because they had to
Westfield in general.
They had to make a decision on where do we want to open up our business.
Right.
We want to do it in Westfield, which is a home run. It's only going to add to more folks coming into downtown. Once the rail trail's done, it's going to bring people off of that rail trail into the downtown area to be able to shop at these stores. And then maybe that leads to maybe it's time for a move. Maybe we should move to Westfield. We've got the housing market's obviously on the rise, but price wise, but being able to come in here and with the new elementary school that's going to be that's being developed now and built. The Boys and Girls Club just put on that great addition over there, named after Bill Parks, which was a great honor for him.
There's another business that we have a very strong relationship with.
Right.
So here on the school department,
right, and I think it's a success of the city to be able to say that everybody is here to support each other. We're not just here for ourselves.
And the Boys and Girls Club is hiring too, by the way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, boys.
Everybody's hiring.
Everybody's hiring, except the chamber office. We're not hiring right
now.
So if we're hiring, then it's something I don't know, and this will be my last TV show.
Yeah.
But we're I think it is true. Even at the height of pandemic, with the grocery stores and everywhere else
you're seeing the shortages too, and you see service jobs in particular. You go out to eat, and what's interesting? Like, people are getting angry too. It's like, relax.
Right.
There's nothing they can do. You can't make people work right now.
Sure.
So you have to go out to eat, for example, with that expectation.
Right.
I feel
sure.
Know that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, and we're actually doing a seminar at the end of the month at the Shortstop from 11:30 to 1:30. We've got 4 great panelists. It's called Back to Work, Ramping Up Your Business. And essentially what's going to happen is we're going to have these four panelists come up. So Mishi's one of them, workforce coordinator, Joanne Burwell from Mess Tech, the executive director from Mass Hire, and forgive me, I don't remember her name, but and then
Christina Abramowitz?
No, I think it's Ramona. I just don't remember her last name.
All right.
I apologize. But and then Rebecca Whitkiss from Viability, and the MC will be Dawn Creighton from Mass Hire as well. So, but just local businesses, feel free to come out. It's $20 for lunch to sit for an hour or so and just ask questions and listen to some of the folks who are experts in their field and how are they adapting to the time here. How are they adapting to COVID? How are they getting people to come back to work? And the two great resources with Mass Hire there, how they can help support the community and getting folks to come in and work. So I think it'll be a great lunch. Westfield Gas and Electric is sponsoring it, and they've always been another huge advocate of the chamber and the
they're
school
providing
department
transportation for our students to the career
fair. So
bringing it back full circle.
Right. So it's again, it's everybody's. We're all in it together. We're all here to help and. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that we're also partnering with the Chamber of Commerce is partnering with the school department and doing our coat drive, our annual coat drive. Yeah. So being able to have a spot at your local business, or if you'd like to have a spot at your local business where we can drop off coats. The chamber is one. I believe the school department.
We are 94 North Elm Street,
yep.
Suite 101. You come in through the side door, just take your first right.
And go. And then we've also got them up at Shortstop. We've got them at just all over the city. I just don't know them all.
So it's interesting too. We're doing this coat drive, and you don't see this happening in many communities in with the chamber and the school department.
Correct.
But I think what people have to understand is that you mentioned that we're a gateway city, and I don't know if a lot of people really understand what that means. Mm-hmm. But it does indicate a certain, essentially it is a former really industrial type town that has had a little bit of difficulty moving forward with the times, right? Mm-hmm. And that is reflected in the population. It's also reflected in income levels and so on. So 42.7% of the students in Westfield Public Schools are economically disadvantaged.
Wow.
And for that reason, we do a lot of things, and if you don't take care of those basic needs, education becomes secondary.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, we are now at 3, but 4, actually everybody's eating free because of the USDA for the rest of this school year. Right. But if that weren't happening, 4 of our schools would be eligible for complete total free breakfast and free lunch for students.
Out of how many schools, just to put that in perspective?
11.
So, okay. Which is, 4 may sound small compared to, being at 11, but how many kids are going home and having to play parent because they're single family homes and mom or dad are working 2 jobs and they've got to take care of little brother and sister.
That's a lot of our population.
Right? They don't have time to be a kid because they've got to grow up so quickly.
My first year as superintendent in 2016, I did a presentation at a chamber breakfast, actually, about the stats that were in our schools. And people were in a bit of awe. They didn't realize it was like that. And that's when we started the coat drive. So we also take hats, mittens, scarves, you name it.
Oh, yeah, right. Anything that's going to, absolutely. Yeah,
anything to keep a student
absolutely,
warm.
Absolutely.
Because you'd be surprised the amount of kids that show up to school without any of those.
Right.
And obviously, we've had great weather. Knock on wood, we really have. We've had a nice fall.
Yes, we have.
It has not been bad. There have been years we've had snow by now. So, but it will get cold, inevitably, and our students need these things. So I want to, that's the other part of what I love about this community is the generosity of this community. We will collect a ton of coats, a ton of hats, mittens, gloves, whatever, for our kids, and we'll distribute them. And we do that every year. And it kind of, we do a Thanksgiving turkey drive every year because we have families in Westfield that don't have the means to even have a Thanksgiving meal. Right. So, this year we're providing over 200, and we have the past 5. So it's just... you got to take care of the basic needs of the students before, because if you're not coming to school ready to learn because you're hungry, for example,
right?
Or how do you focus? How do you do that?
Right. Or you're cold, or you're, it's just a testament again to the city being able to come together to do, great things for the students. Also at our breakfast on December 9th at the East Mountain Country Club, sponsored by Westfield Bank. It's our holiday breakfast.
Right.
We'll have the Westfield High chorus there singing, not led by me. I can't carry a tune. I don't believe Stefan will be singing either.
No, you don't want that.
No, maybe we'll get Peter to sing.
He can sing.
He can sing. So, no comment.
Crickets.
So we're looking forward to that. But that'll be the opportunity to if you have coats, feel free to bring coats to that breakfast. But also we're looking for canned items as well for the Westfield Food Pantry,
right?
Because there's always a need, especially around the holidays. There's always a need for food.
What we do too is because we send students home, or at least we drop off food to families too, because over those vacations, there's no school lunch or breakfast for kids. So we do send a lot of things home with students. And again, we'll even do drop-offs because obviously you can't bring bags of groceries home on the bus or anything. But it's been great to it's one of the things about this community that I've loved since I got here is just people care and they want to help.
Yep, my son comes home every afternoon with a bag that's supposed to be for breakfast that turns into his afternoon snack. It never fails. Never fails. So
Nice.
which is great. So just to wrap up here tonight at the Westwood, which is right upstairs, we have our after 5. So feel free to come down for a cocktail and chat with some folks. But that'll be from 5 to 7 at the Westwood building. And then again later this month we will have our morning brew, which will be November 18th, hosted by Shaker Farms, and
That's at
is
Circuit Coffee, right?
Shaker Farms.
It's at Shaker Farms.
Shaker Farms.
Oh.
So, nope, not Circuit. Shaker Farms, that's from 8 to 9, hosted by Dan McCallick, who's one of our board directors from Bacon Wilson. And that's just
I'm going to that, so I'm glad you fixed my location.
That's just an opportunity for local businesses to come out and they get their 2-minute elevator speech, talk about what they're doing and what their need is.
Yeah.
So feel free to come out to that. And then obviously on November 30th, we'll have our Lunch and Learn, our Back to Work seminar with the 4 panelists I mentioned earlier. So
And that's at the shortstop.
that's at the shortstop from 11:30 to 1:30.
Nabil is another guy.
Nabil's another one. Yeah, that's been a huge supporter.
Huge supporter.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's twofold. We're here for each other, which is what makes the city of Westfield, the WIP city, a great city. So any last comments before we wrap up here? Did I miss anything?
I just want to thank again the community, thank the chamber for our partnership. It is very unique. There are not many school systems. In fact, I can't think of one that is a member of the Chamber of Commerce, actually.
Yeah, right.
And that has this close of a working relationship. And I know you had asked before, like, has anyone ever reached out about WeTuba?
From other communities.
From other
Correct.
communities.
Yeah, sorry.
And
right.
So Holyoke has.
Okay.
And I think before the pandemic, they had something going on, and then they had some changes, and I haven't heard anything since. But I know your predecessor and I did a presentation, again, right before the pandemic.
Right.
And at Franklin County, Mass Higher, and also everyone from like superintendents and school administrators were there, and just loved what we were doing.
Yeah.
So I think it's unique. It's work to maintain and sustain it, and we always are doing outreach. But it's so worth it. I think the outcomes and the benefits for our students are just worth it, and the outcome and benefits for business folks.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's terrific. So I just thank you and thank the Westfield community for making this a great place to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Superintendent Stefan Zaporowski here from the Greater West. Well, not the Greater. Sorry, that's the Greater Westfield Chamber. I am the director of the Greater Westfield Chamber, Eric Willett. But the superintendent of Westfield Schools, Stefan Zaporowski. Again, thank you everybody for joining us this morning here on WSKB 89.5 FM and WCPC Channel 15. We will see you next month in December. Thank you, Peter.
Going out on the music today is 46 years ago, a ship was lost and would have lost to the annals of time, if not for Gordon Lightfoot.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy. With a load of iron ore, 26,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald weighed empty. That good ship and true was a bone to be chewed when the gales of November came early. The ship was the pride of the American side, coming back from some mill in Wisconsin. As the big freighters go, it was bigger than most, with a crew and good captain well seasoned, concluding some terms with a couple of steel firms when they left fully loaded for Cleveland. Then later that night when the ship's bell rang, could it be the north wind they'd been feeling? The wind in the wires made a tattletale sound, and the wave broke over the railing. And every man knew, as the captain did too, 'twas the witch of November come stealing. The dawn came late and the breakfast had to wait. night when the gales of November came slashing. When afternoon came, it was freezing rain in the face of a hurricane west wind. When supper time came, the old cook came on deck saying, fellas, it's too rough to feed you. At 7 p.m. a main hatchway caved in. He said, fellas, it's been good to know ya. The captain wired in, he had water coming in, and the good ship and crew was in peril. And later that night, when his lights went out of sight, came the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? The searchers all say they'd have made Whitefish Bay if they'd put 15 more miles behind her. They might have split up or they might have capsized. They may have broke deep and took water. And all that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters. Lake Huron rolls Superior sings in the rooms of her ice water mansion. Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. And farther below, Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. And the iron boats go as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remembered. In a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.